Here it is then. This is the first edition. It is literally the car that I drove in France. I recognised the number plate and immediately I was like, I have to drive that again, because my first experience with this car was really quite something. It blew me away because it's completely different to the previous generation G63. It is vastly more refined, the interior heavily upgraded, and I feel like this could potentially be a car for me at some point. Look at the digital displays, look at the steering wheel, the sporty, comfortable interior, yet the exterior is still the rugged, iconic G-Wagon looks. Those clunks as you close the doors, the boxy type frame, heavily reworked under the skin, the ladder frame that makes up the chassis, developed by AMG for not just the G63 but the other regular G-Wagon models as well. It's powered up here by the 4-litre bi-turbo V8, 585 horsepower, 850 newton meters of torque. It's an engine that's shared by a number of different Mercedes models, from the AMG GTC to the new C63 as well. Obviously a different configuration for the power and torque needed in the G-Wagon. It's mated then to the AMG 9G automatic gearbox. Basically, this car is set up to be something different from anything else. You look around it, there's nothing else that does what a G-Wagon does, and that's what I like about it so much. Really and truly, it's like a sports SUV almost, and especially the way it now drives. Practical, nicely finished, quilting in the boot, just those lovely, lovely touches. I would be super, super keen to add one to the garage. Just imagine hooking up a trailer to the back of this and pulling, well, one of the other cars, right? The Ford GT or maybe the McLaren Senna along behind it, and using it for a new style of road trip, taking the cars somewhere far, far away, driving them on track days. So let's jump into it and go out for a short drive and see if it feels as good as it did last time. Time to get back into this car then. So the first edition has a lot of very nice trim, this red hue to the carbon fibre that you can see, the dual 12.3-inch displays from the virtual cockpit, and that growl from the side exit exhaust pipes that you get with the AMG. It's loaded in terms of equipment and comfort, sound system, still iconic features like this, but it also does the off-roading element, and I had an opportunity to explore with this car, both driving hard in the G63 but also taking a G500 onto some crazy terrain that cars just shouldn't be able to drive. Other than that, we have all the latest from the Mercedes lineup, the steering wheel with the controls to go through these menus, to change things, set them up depending how you'd like it. I am instinctively just drawn to this car. I really like what Mercedes are doing. You have a high up seating position as we look out over the C63S, T-model, the estate station wagon and the rest of the lineup. Anyway, it is time now to get joined by a guest for today's video and then head on out. Welcome back then to Sam, Mr. STG, seen through glass. How you doing?
Thanks for having me.
It's a bit hot today, isn't it?
It's really hot, so I'm happy to be in air conditioning. Yeah.
It's like 9:30 in the morning and the car is showing that it's 28 degrees.
Yeah, that's a little unbearable, but we've got cooling seats in here.
Yeah, indeed. Let's
so it's a nice environment to be in.
Yeah, aircon, cooled seats. So, you've not been in a new G-Wagon?
I have not.
You've been in the old one?
I've been in the old one, that was an experience.
You've driven it?
I've driven it, and I drove the 4x4 squared as well.
Oh, okay.
So my memories of G-Wagons are a little bit jarred because I remember the 4x4 more than the actual standard car.
Yeah, which is a bit of a big boaty.
Yeah.
The centre of gravity is not so low to the ground.
Yeah, it's very floating, quite scary.
Well, let me tell you that this is substantially improved.
You're excited about this car, aren't you?
I am indeed.
I can tell.
I'm sitting here actually itching to go. I've got it in Sport Plus.
Ooh, Sport?
Yes.
God, it sounds good, doesn't it?
So, need to drive. Let's head on out and go for a little drive. Yeah, I'm not sure you need to. That's exactly.
But I like that it's got that.
They fitted that just so when Sam's in my passenger seat, he can hold on tight.
Because you know the last time I was in a car with you?
Oh yes.
Nürburgring in your GT3, and I was hoping that one of these would have been there. But it wasn't, anyway.
Well, this is a little bit of a different experience. I'm instantly, like, feeling at home in this car.
Really?
Really.
See, the thing is, I said it to you last night, I don't really see this as a very Shmee...
to the highlighted.
Yeah,
Susie sound now.
Yeah.
I don't see this as a real Shmee car, even though I'm sure the only reason you like it is because you could call it a Shmee wagon.
I hadn't actually thought about that.
Yeah, you had.
No, I had. Oh, yes. You know, this will do 0 to 62 miles an hour, 100 Ks, in 4.5 seconds.
Wow. That is class.
In the G-Wagon.
Where do you think this sits though? So 4.5 seconds, that's right up there with one of our super SUVs these days.
Yeah, the land of Bentegas, Uruses, and actually, you know what? I've driven some of the competitors since I drove this car. That's an interesting one in my mind for a comparison. Because when I drove this, obviously, there was a lot of hype, particularly around the Urus.
Sure.
Which, you know, they're completely different in terms of looks. But they're a similar price kind of car.
And driving characteristics, because, I mean, I still haven't driven this one yet. That's coming up after your drive. But in my mind, the G-Wagon is, you know, a bit of a floaty brick. The Urus is supposed to be a Lamborghini.
Yes.
What are they like, back to back?
Well, to be honest, what you have to think with the G-Wagon is a bit of a comparative to how it was before. You know, this has never exactly been a dynamic car. It's vastly improved. The suspension has been completely reworked. Steering is massively better. Weight of the car is more controlled. The Urus is definitely the sportier in this comparison. But this is, well, it's just the G-Wagon. I don't know how to explain this. I do absolutely love it. Should it do that?
I think I heard tyre squeal and just power. I just heard power.
Lots of power. We are driving in Sport Plus, so full on noisy mode. We could go more gentle. I don't normally do gentle.
No, I don't think you don't want to be gentle in this. It's all about being a little bit brash and over the top. It's an AMG, but it's also got its own identity, I think, the G-Wagon.
Yes, for sure. It has, I mean, it's a long history. The first G-Wagons, decades and decades and decades ago. There have been multiple generations. They have really long life cycles.
Really long
That's the crazy thing. And if you put this car alongside one of the old ones, they actually look pretty similar.
To a non-car aficionado like we might class ourselves as, I think it would be hard to tell. I mean, I don't think my girlfriend would have a clue which one was the new one or the old one.
Yeah, indeed. It's just like slightly more curved windows, upgraded headlights, the LED multi-beam lights.
Inside, revolutionary.
Inside completely.
Because the old interior was a little bit dire. But these screens are lovely.
Just the whole thing, the materials, especially the first edition carbon fibre.
Yeah.
That wasn't an instruction to hold on to.
But I told you earlier, I'm always ready to hold on to this. And I'll be the first to admit, I won't speak for you, but for me, I'm not the coolest of guys, you know? I like myself, but I wouldn't class myself as cool. But I feel cool in this car.
Yes. Raised up position, I'm sure, is involved in that. Sitting up high.
Sitting up high.
Knowing what it is, right?
The brand image, and I'm just like, yeah, like, let's cruise to South Beach.
I wasn't going to go that far.
No, sorry. Got carried away.
Shall I pull over and let you out?
No, please don't. I'm having so much fun.
In the 30-something degree.
In the 30-something
degree. Stand there to roast for the day.
So, talk to me about cost, because I need to nerd up before I film my video. So what are the price of this new car?
I'm actually not 100% sure. I think it's very similar to the AMG GTR money though. It's not cheap.
Because the old one wasn't cheap either, and they've held their money unbelievably well.
Residuals is crazy. They completely hold value. I think in Europe, to spec one up, and I'm not gonna lie, I might have been through the configurator a few times.
No, really?
Of course. I love the thing. I came home from driving it at the launch, and literally, losing my voice, literally went straight to the computer and popped in a configuration. So we're on a slightly open stretch.
Yeah, back to spec.
Back to Sport Plus. Drop some gears, get manual on.
We've got a tractor to catch up with.
We do have a tractor. I don't think we're
basically the same car that we're in.
It's ludicrous.
Corner, Tim, corner.
Yeah, it's all good. Oh, tractor.
Yeah, tractor.
That didn't take long. Look at this road. I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's so unique in its characteristics.
A little bit hooligan-like.
Yes, and it must look like a sort of, you know, a brick house moving along the road. I can't think what it must look like, but it doesn't roll that much in the corners. That's the one
size and weight of it. Another tractor.
We're on tractor highway.
Tractors.
Well, we can include ourselves in that.
I love the noise. Ample power to get through.
Well, it means that if you find yourself on a twisty road like this, you can actually start to exploit it a bit. So first edition is all aesthetics, right?
First edition is aesthetics and only available in the first year of production.
Okay.
Across the Mercedes AMG range, they do tend to hold their values better as well. But on cars like the GTS, for example, when it came out, it meant that it had a wing on the back and a couple of visual elements.
Sure.
Whereas on this, it's mostly the finish. This is called Platinum platinum selenite Magno, I think.
It's nice. I like the red.
With the red accents, the
red
pinstriping on the wheel around the car. So.
So funny that you're loving this car. So
I absolutely love it. I hooned it down a mountain road. I mean, this road's not bad. I'm shifting way more than I need to, but the gearbox is so good for that.
And it sounds great. So
look, we're catching up with a hatchback.
This poor hatchback is now going to look in its mirror and go, "Oh my God,
what is that thing?
I'm going to be eaten alive."
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, I do admit it's very, very cool. And from the passenger seat, it's definitely a much nicer place to be. I'm a big Range Rover fan.
Yeah.
That's my, I don't know, so a Range Rover SVR for me is like, pretty much ticks every box. I kind of see how this could, you know, how you could, this could be another option over a Range Rover Sport.
I think they're quite different cars, but they do hit a similar price point.
Yes.
And a similar target market.
That's what I mean. Because I think maybe Bentegas and Uruses, potentially because of their prices, are a step above.
Slightly above.
Slightly above.
But realistically, a customer who's interested in one might be interested in the others.
Absolutely.
Does the price point make that much difference which they're going to go for? I mean, it might be a consideration for some, but for many buying these cars, it's alongside, I think, a fleet of other cars.
Sure.
You know, I don't think you buy an Urus or a G63 as your only car in the garage.
No.
Maybe some do. Many more will buy a Range Rover as their only car.
Good point.
For sure.
Absolutely.
But these feel more like additional options.
I think so.
In the key drawer.
I suppose the question is, would you actually buy one though? I mean, you love it, but would you buy one?
This is where the price tag factors in. And I'm not gonna lie, for me, I've not owned a car like this. I've not owned an SUV. I've had, you know, daily or fast, let's say, autobahn cruisers, and this is not one of those. The top speed by default is limited to 220 kilometers per hour, which is what, 130 miles an hour or so. So it's not a car for barreling down the autobahn.
It's 100 kilometers an hour slower than you go every day to work.
Yeah, more or less. You can opt to have the AMG driver's package, which increases it to 240. So I don't know whether I would use the car as much as I have in my mind. You know, I'm envisioning doing this massive road trip, but outside of that, would I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe I need some feedback from the audience. Would you like to see a G63 on the channel?
Could you see Tim owning a Shmee wagon? Let's find out. Because I think just
you're
your name.
totally setting that.
Well, I've already set up a merch store for it. I've got the t-shirts made.
Okay.
Yeah, the Shmee
STG shop shout out. Right?
There we go.
Those are going in the Shmee store.
But that's the thing. Where would it sit in your lineup? I know you said you haven't had a car like this before, but with everything you've got, which has basically got a wing and a bucket seat.
They all have wings and bucket seats. So the cars in my garage right now, the 675 LT, the AMG GTR, the 911 GT3, Vantage GT8, and the two Focus RSs all have bucket seats and wings. So I don't really have a practical car. I've been driving the BMW M5 loaner car, and there are other plans in the future for long-term loan test cars. But this is again something different. I like cars that have a story though. I really do, and the G-Wagon has such a big story. Yes, it's iconic in its history and its looks and everything, but could you imagine the fuel consumption? Well, that's the thing, like, if you're getting this as a car to actually use each day and you think, oh, okay, I need something that's a little bit more, I mean, dare we say it's sensible, because I don't think this car is. No, this is not sensible. But I like not sensible. I like not sensible. Oh, you could be getting, I mean, get a Wraith if you want to be not sensible. Yeah, I mean, it's big money, this car, and you're going to be looking at lots of other options. I mean, even you couldn't get a Lusso yet, could you, for that kind of money? Not quite. We're not far off. Not far off, to be honest. But the FF has probably been the closest you've had to having something like this, i.e., yes, 4 seats, a boot, usable, a bit impractical, a little impractical, but actually practical. Yeah, yeah. That feel another little tractor thingy. We are literally on Tractor Highway. I'm not coming here when we film my video. No, we'll go a different way. Definitely. So that's actually an interesting point. We're having this entire conversation, but you haven't offered your input on driving it because you haven't driven it. No, so that's what I'm going to do. I've been holding back. I'm going to have to do that over on your channel. Yes, please. That's exactly it. See if you like it as much as I do. I'm going to use all the facts and stats you told me and say them like I knew them from the beginning. 0 to 62? 4.4. 4.5. Oh, close enough. Right. Close enough. If I'm driving, it's 4.4. Oh, I can't remember any of it. Bail out. Bail out. I was looking 585. It's actually as powerful as the AMG GTR. I was going to say, because the C63 drove was 510, right? C63S? Yeah. So it's more powerful than the cars we were driving. Wow, okay. In a G-Wagon. That's, yeah. Absurdity to the highest degree. Anyway, let us... Corner. You don't need to see that, look. Look at that.
Tyre squeal! I did need to hold on to him, I did!
That was in comfort mode.
That was amazing.
We weren't even in Sport Plus or anything.
Wow, good effort. Good effort.
It wafts, it has an effortlessness to it. Even in comfort, you get the nice burble and growl in the background. As a car, I just think it's perfect. I think you'll have an opinion, but from my feeling, anybody who is considering one of these, there is no reason not to buy it. It does everything that a customer would want it to do.
Interesting. I'll share my thoughts on my video.
We'll get to that. Right, let's head on back to base then. Well, Sam couldn't take it anymore. He's jumped out. No, I kid. We're back at base. But what a drive. It's interesting now to drive it with slightly less by way of rose-tinted glasses, if you know what I mean. The first time I was completely blown away by it, but now that I've driven it before, I can concentrate and think a little bit more about the car itself. One thing I want to do just quickly is to open up the door and play you the symphony, the melody that this car makes. A bit of this with a listen to the exhaust pipes. How beastly is this? The sound of the G-Wagon is just awesome. I love the first edition carbon, but there are bits about the first edition that aren't necessarily up my street. So, some further thoughts about the G63 from AMG. I'd been playing around with the configurator, not gonna lie, looking through different options, thinking what it would be like in a dark blue with a light colored interior, maybe a cream interior, and certainly it would look pretty good. There are actually multiple different configurations for the inside. So, should I buy a G63? Would it fit in the Shmee 150 lineup? This is the big question. I'm not gonna lie, it is definitely a car that is on my shortlist. I don't have one ordered, I wish I did. Maybe I should ask if I can cheekily borrow one for a trip at some point, just to experience it a bit more before maybe making the dive. But I think honestly, what I said to Sam a moment ago, to people who are considering this, who want the iconic rugged G63 style, who maybe want it to drive across the dunes or through, you know, desert, wherever it may be, off-roading, we know that it can do that incredibly well, but what it also does well, that is the surprising angle, is drive pretty decently. Yes, you get your tyre squeal on if you push it, because it's a lot of weight to bring around a corner, but it's fairly dynamic for what it is, honestly. It's not like a GLC 63S that's parked over there, for example. That is a significantly more dynamic car, but it's the G-Wagon, and I love it. I think it's absolutely awesome. So if I felt I could fit this into my life and I would actually use it, whether that would be in the UK or based in Germany, then I think I might go for one. We will have to see what the future holds, but for now, a big thanks to Sam for coming over and joining me for today's drive. I'm going to jump in with him as well to see his first thoughts on the G63, so do head over to his channel if you're not already subscribed to take a watch of that as well. For now though, farewell to the G63. I'll see one again very soon, I'm sure. Thank you very much for watching, guys. As always, that's it for now, and I will see you next time. Cheers!